Close your eyes. Listen to Monday.com. Feel the sensation of an AI work platform. So flexible and intuitive, it feels like it was built just for you. Now open your eyes, go to Monday.com, start for free, and finally breathe.
Hello, this is Margaret, and welcome to Fresh Take from What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. Today, I am talking to Helena Andrews-Dyer, an award-winning culture reporter for The Washington Post. Her first book, Bitch is the New Black, was optioned by Shonda Rhimes as a feature film. Her latest book, The Mamas, What I Learned About Kids, Class, and Race from Moms Not Like Me, is out now. Helena lives with her family in Washington, D.C. Helena, welcome to the What Fresh Hell podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
The first thing I want to say first of all, I loved this book, but the first thing I want to say about this book is that it's really, really funny. And we kind of pride ourselves on the podcast of like funny with a takeaway and research. And that's exactly the lane that this book kind of lives in. And I feel sometimes, especially maybe talking about race, that it's like, okay, time to stop being funny. We've got something serious to discuss. And this book really maintains a sense of humor throughout, which I think our audience will really, really appreciate. This book is a memoir, but it's a memoir that brings in research and deals with a lot of larger cultural issues. And so let's start kind of where the book starts, which is your experience as the only non-white mom in a mom's group. Take us to that and how you started on this story.
Well, the only Black mom. And so when I became pregnant with our first daughter, I have two little girls who are now 5 and 3. And the first thing a coworker of mine said was, "Oh, are you on the Facebook group? Have you joined the Facebook group?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, I'm not familiar with this life." And I joined this Facebook group because I am a person who has to know all the things. You know, I'm a journalist, I'm a memoirist, but also a journalist.
You're what we call an Amy on the podcast.
I have to know all the information. I love that.
That Amy's our researcher. I'm the wing it mom, but Amy is like, nope, I'm going to figure it out and get it right.
Well, see, I'm a mix of both because I like all the research and then it obviously immediately goes out of my head and then I'm just winging it anyway. But like, I like to feel as if I'm making these choices based on something, right? So anyway, I joined this group and it's like blindingly white, right? I'm not the only person of color, but there are very, very few of us. And what that signaled to me at the time was that, I'm just as nutty as all these women, right? I'm thinking about doing cloth diapers, even though I know full well I'm not going to do cloth diapers. I'm reading all the Emily Oyster books. Like I'm doing like all that stuff, but I don't see me reflected. So immediately I think I was like, is this for me? Is that brand of motherhood for me? Even though I know I have Black friends who are mothers who I know are engaging in this type of mothering, but I didn't see them reflected in my immediate neighborhood, right? And so that just got me to thinking on this journey of like what motherhood looks like, what mainstream motherhood looks like, who belongs, who doesn't. And like you say, there's larger themes in the book about gentrification, about class, about race, all of this stuff sort of like smushed together in this one Facebook group, which often happens. If anybody is in any of these parenting groups online, they are a hotbed, they are a hothouse of so many of these issues.
And it's interesting because I think that we can sit back, perhaps especially white moms, and see motherhood as this universal experience, that's kind of our lens of like motherhood is an experience that is the same for everyone.
Right.
But you explore that and you kind of really get into it in the book that's actually not your experience. And in talking about joining this motherhood group, where do you first see those kind of issues coming to the fore?
I think for me, obviously like looking at it and being like, okay, perhaps not for me. But on our first sort of tour of duty, because we were all privileged to have these lengthy maternity leaves, and when I finally decided to just like go, right? For the longest, I was like this weird lurker looking at all the stuff, the free for porch pickups, like being just such a nut, so creepy. And finally, I like get out of my house and go to like a meetup.
Definitely not creepy though. I am a perma lurker. I want to say I never join anything where I have to deal with actual humans. So like support for the lurker.
Yes, definitely. I'm a lurker, right? It was very creepy. I'm just like watching what these women do, making fun of it. And of course, my husband's like, you just want to go to one of the meetups. Like, just go, girl. So I go, and what was interesting about that piece of it, that part of it at that time, was that I did learn that I had like a lot of things in common, right? Like, and they became my friends, and it became this moment of me sort of moonlighting, I say in the book, as a mother without cares. You know, we didn't have these deeper conversations at all, but that all changed, obviously, when the world did not change, but the world sort of started to show its slip, right? And the pandemic happened, George Floyd is murdered, and suddenly our conversations not only became deeper, but my connections to some of the women in the group who I'd known for now a long time, right? And now it's been like years. Some of those connections changed as I saw some people who were willing to have uncomfortable conversations, right? Willing to put themselves in spaces where they felt like, okay, everything I think is not right, versus those who did want to learn something. Not that I was teaching, because I don't believe in the burden of teaching, but who wanted to take it upon themselves to learn something, to recognize where their place in the world is different from mine, you know, and it would come up in little moments for me. I write about in the book where we were in baby music class, which is ridiculous, obviously, because they were like 7 weeks old. We're all on maternity leave. And one of the woman's kids rolled over, right? And anyone who is, especially a new mom of a newborn, you know, you're just this raw nerve. You have no clue what you're doing. No one's teaching you, especially if you live far from family. And so you're caught, as I say, you know, I've got the apps. I know, okay, at 6 weeks, she should be doing this and all this stuff. And this other woman's baby rolled over, and I'm like, oh, cool, huh? You know, I wish, you know, Sally, my daughter, my older daughter, she's not there yet. She hasn't rolled over yet. And she looked at me and she said, well, you know, you can't compare them. And to me, via my Black mama translator, I'm like, what do you mean we can't compare them? Like, my baby's amazing. What are you talking about? I have an Ivy League degree. You know, like, those are the things I'm thinking, because that sort of comment is so heavy with racialized context for me, because I'm a Black woman. I cannot remove anything from that, right?
Loaded, yeah.
But from her perspective, I'm sure she was just trying to offer me a life, right? Like, yeah, you can't compare babies. Like, stop being a nut job. And it's like little moments like that for me would always mean something different. And that's, I think, the point you're getting to about we come to motherhood differently. And that's the story I wanted to tell in the book, because I don't think a lot of people recognize that. And it's very true. And it affects the connection that we have with one another.
I think that's right. And I think white moms tend to prefer the easier story of like, well, look at us all. We're on the same journey and we're together. And I saw in some of the moms groups, 2 of the moms groups that I was in shut down in the wake of George Floyd's murder, because the dialogue became that had suddenly been like, look, we're all on the same page. And is your baby eating solids, or do you breastfeed, or cloth diapers? And we all have the same struggles. Suddenly there became a really marked divide between people who were like, we don't want to talk about politics and we don't want to make this political and get into these conversations. And people, white and Black moms, who were saying, this is a conversation that we want to have as part of our motherhood journey. And that I feel like the challenges of they are difficult to wrap your mind around, and they are difficult for people to discuss, that this book, it really has a way of walking you into that experience that I think is really valuable. When we come back, I want to talk about one specific chapter with you, which is the chapter, The Invisible Mom. I'm talking to Helena Andrews-Dyer, and we'll be right back.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH. All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
There's a chapter in the book that gets at a ton of issues around race and class. And I'd like to talk about the chapter in your book called The Invisible Mom and what happens to you at the playground in that chapter.
Yes. And that is a chapter that I think has a lot of, there are so many people for whom that chapter has resonated on many different levels, right? And I think, so the chapter specifically is about this playground in my neighborhood that is like, again, one of these hot spots of convergence between race and class and all of this stuff. Like, the history of the playground is that it used to be an elementary school, and the neighborhood changed and the neighborhood emptied out. So then elementary school got abandoned and sat empty for years. And then they tore it down and they built this beautiful playground in its stead. And across the street is public housing. And right next to the public housing are like $1 million condos, right? So it's just, that's what's happening. Any given moment, who knows what's going on at that playground. And I was there with my husband and my mother, who lived with us for a year, which was its own bag of beans, and our daughter at the time. And
thoughts and prayers with you for that.
Yes, absolutely. And our daughter and a white couple who I met the mom through mommy yoga, baby yoga. And it was this incident where there was a little black boy there who was unattended. He was there by himself, and he was like harassing this other little girl, this little white girl. And it wasn't like good, clean fun. He was cutting up. He was acting a fool. And so we, as the only Black parents there, which happens now, which is so crazy about this neighborhood, how much it's changed, that we would be the only Black people at this playground, right? The only Black parents there. So we kind of step in, my husband and I step in. He's trying to like, hey, my man, calm down. Like, stop harassing this little girl, he's trying to like just diffuse the situation. And so finally the little girl, and she was there with her dad, who I call Band Dad, because he had on this like esoteric rock band tee.
My husband might be Band Dad.
Right. And it's so funny. I talked to a friend of mine about this yesterday, and he was like, that could have been me. Like, that could have been me. It wasn't, because he's great, but it was definitely his type. And so as he's leaving the playground, he sort of like puts his arm around my husband and I, sort of like conspiratorially. And we're like, oh, what's this guy going to say? And he's like, hey, if you want to give me your number, or I give you my information. And we're like, what's happening now? And he's like, there's all these programs in the city where kids can get free bikes. It seems that he really wants a bike. There are, all these things that could help you guys get him a bike. And we're looking at him like, what? Does he think this is our son? Right. And I said to him, because I have zero filter, I'm just like, this isn't my freaking kid, And he sort of stops and sort of finally takes my husband and I and our mother and our kid with her, Montessori wooden toys or whatever. And it's like, oh, he sees us finally. And obviously he's mortified, and he just like runs away, right, with his daughter. And we're just sitting there with the weight of that. Like, what does that mean for us that, he can't see us, quote unquote? But I don't want him separating us from this little boy, right? I never want that. I was, the unattended kid at the playground, like, but at the same time, if my husband and I, we have fought to be these, upstanding, upper middle class Black folks, but he doesn't even see that. He just sees Black people, right? There's race and class conflate in this way that becomes impossible to separate. And it was just one of those moments, and those moments happen all the time at that one freaking playground, where we just thought, it's different for us. You know, the things that we think about are different for us. How you view my child is different. So all of that kind of came together in that moment. And I go on to say in that chapter, not to give it all away, I had a different moment like that and that same playground, but just among Black people, that gave me a different thought process as well. And so I ask a lot of questions in the book, and specific, and, you know, I don't have easy answers. Like, I don't know, I've only been doing this 5 years. I have no idea. But they were questions that I don't think I ever asked myself before about who I am, where I belong, and how I want other people to see me. And yeah, that chapter sort of crystallized that thought process, which I'm continuing today, but that crystallized it for me.
We have a lot of authors on the podcast who are coming with answers, right? Like, this is the way to incorporate sports into your life without getting crazy. This is how French babies eat. And if your baby eats like this, they will eat crab at midnight and never complain. You know, people who are coming in with a very specific thesis and an answer that they have formulated over time. This book is really a seeking book. It's a book about looking for those answers and documenting your own experience. And I think what's interesting is it changed my mind about the idea of like motherhood as this universal experience versus motherhood as an experience that forces us into communion in a way that I think is a little bit gone from our lives. I mean, when you live in an urban setting, you end up on the subway, you end up at maybe movie theaters, and there's people from all over. But it struck me that in reading this book, that motherhood is a very unique thing, that you do have this commonality with really different people, but that what that brings up can be complicated, and it leads to a lot of questions. Did you set out in writing the book to say, like, what are the answers to these questions? Or did you set out just seeking and thinking, like, where is this story taking me?
Yeah, describing it as a seeking book, I have never used that term, but it is completely correct and apt, because that is what I was trying to do, right? As these questions were popping up, I'm like, oh, well, that was weird. Like, you know, that icky feeling I just felt, where'd that come from? You know, and it was stuff that we never talk about in mixed company, right? Some of these things are things I will talk about with my Black mom friends that I wouldn't talk about with other moms, or vice versa. And I wanted to lay it more bare and out for people. And like you say, I think what I've learned through the process of writing the book is that motherhood has this great potential to connect, right? Connect us, right? Parenthood in general, but like, let's talk about moms. Because one person asked me at a book talk, she's like, well, where are the dads? I was like, girl, the dads aren't on Facebook. The dads are not in these Facebook groups. Like, that is not what they're doing. You know, he's very involved.
Well, I heard you on an interview, and someone was asking, like, where is your husband on the, you know, and your husband is not seeking as much. I mean, it is somehow the nature of motherhood to be like, where does it all fit? I mean, there is something interesting about dads and moms. I don't want to go down a gender rabbit hole because we'll hear about it on Facebook, but that sense of seeking and trying to make it work out, there is something that the moms are doing a lot of that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, we will go down a deep rabbit hole in that. So I will just say, like, the motherhood identity is one, I think, that can connect, but only can truly connect, right? Because there's always this question, like the question they asked in the book and PR materials, like, can Black moms and white moms be friends? And it's like, okay, yeah, but it's like moms across any divide, right? And I think what I learned is that we can, but only if we have the patience to truly want to connect on a real level, right? Because, you know, you got your park friend, your farmer's market friend, the school friend, like, you know, those quote unquote mom friends. It's always this weird, like, disclaimer, like a distance between you and the actual friend. No, she's my mom friend, not just my friend, my mom friend. And like, when can you cross the mom part out and really get close? And I think across lines, and we all have these cultural barriers and walls, whether cultural, racial, you know, political, all of those things. socioeconomic, it only works if you actually want to get to know the real human being. And how do you get to know the real human being? If you see them truly, right? And you can't see someone truly if you say something stupid like, I don't see color. Like, you cannot see someone truly if they tell you, oh, I was made really uncomfortable by this. And you were just like, oh, well, she didn't mean it like that. You cannot see someone truly if you deny them in that way. And so that at the end of the book, when I talk about, like you say, when there's so many mom groups that have imploded under the weight of these larger conversations because they're like, oh, well, that doesn't belong here. And it's like, of course it does. We're raising children, right? Of course it belongs here. That's another thing that I think about constantly is that I'm very clear about the fact that I'm raising 2 Black daughters. Like, my daughters are Black. Their Black identity is important to me. It's not important to all Black parents. It's very important to me because I know that's how the world sees them, right? And I want them to, one, be ready to defend it and also realize how magical and wonderful it is. I love being Black. They should love being Black, all of that. But I don't think there are certain parents and moms that I have encountered who are raising white children, but don't think they're raising white children, right? They just think they're raising kids. But as we sit and talk about these interactions as moms of color, we talk about all the microaggressions our kids have received at 3, 4, 5. And the other parents say, oh, I don't know where they get it from. I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know where and it's like, she's getting it from you because you're raising a white child and you don't realize it. We think about those things when we're thinking about deprogramming our daughters in terms of patriarchy, but we don't think about it in terms of deprogram all of our children when it comes to racial oppression. And so, I mean, that's like a deeper thing. Like, those were the questions I was thinking about and still don't have the answers to, but I'm constantly asking myself those questions when it comes to like any interaction I have with my kids, other people's kids, and other adults, other parents.
We are talking to Helena Andrews-Dyer, and we'll be right back.
My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com. Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING.
I want to drill down on something that you talked about earlier that is something that I think is also confusing sometimes. The idea of the emotional labor and looking to Black mom friends to be the person who helps us understand racism. And we have a sister podcast, Toddler Purgatory, hosted by a Black mom. And she talks about an incident that happened where she was mistaken for the nanny, and it happened more than once. And the idea was then, well, we'd like you to do a program on how we can be less racist. But I think this idea of well, on the one hand, well, I want to be right and I want to be the right person and be helpful. But at the same time, it's not really your job to explain to me how to be any sort of person, a better person, a different person. What is the role that plays for you in this world of interacting in this mom group, and how do you handle it?
I think for me, what I realized, and here's the thing, I've grown up in so many different spaces and places in my life. I was raised by a hippie lesbian woman. We lived for a time on an island called Catalina off the coast of Southern California, where I was the only Black child on the whole island. I went to public school in South LA for a little while. Then I went to private school downtown, Ivy League. So like I have existed in so many different spheres. And what I've learned in my almost 42 years is that I bring my whole self to everything. Right? I don't always feel, and I talk about this in the book, sort of like the trust divide, right? And women of color, parents of color, don't always feel comfortable just, breaking down this wall between them and other people for a myriad of obvious reasons. But so I'm not always comfortable. I'm not always going to give you all of me. But I do come as my truest self, right? My most authentic self. And that for me is as much work as I'll do, right? I just get to be my full self. So I'll talk about things that maybe I wouldn't have talked about in mixed company among other people, right? I'll talk about the fact that, I'll talk about that labor, right? I'll talk about the fact that, yes, the girls, I want them in ballet, but the teacher has to be Black. That's it. The teacher has to be Black. And not only does the teacher have to be Black, I want there to be other Black girls in the ballet class. Right. I'll talk about the fact that like, oh, okay, well, I got to go take Sally to get her hair braided by Miss Etinesh, her daycare professional, because she's got this beautiful cloud of hair that I can't deal with. Otherwise, it'll take me 2 hours every morning to do her hair. Like little things, I think, that display the extra labor that we're doing without me having to, I'm not going to give a PowerPoint on it. But if I come as myself and explain that as a person of color, as a mother of color, and not just explain it, just like lay it out, I think it helps. And again, like I talked about the patience, those who have the patience to actually want to connect and understand, like they'll just exist in that space and they'll be like, oh, okay, I get it. Right. Like they'll just be there with you. And those are your true friends. Because not everybody's a true friend. Some people are just in front of school pickup friend. I talked to you for 5 minutes and then goodbye. And I think that invisible labor that parents of color are constantly doing, constantly thinking about, okay, if I send her to this summer camp that's like way up in Chevy Chase, when there not be enough Black kids, will she feel weird? Like all of this stuff that we're constantly going through in our minds, we don't necessarily always say it and talk about it. And I have just been more, I think, in my quest to make sure that my daughters always feel comfortable in every space they're in. And part of that being, I want to make sure that the parents of the children that they're around understand difference, right? Is that I just say the thing, right? I don't have to explain the thing. We don't have to have a meeting or a coffee about it afterwards, but I'm going to say the thing. And you see the people who are responsive to it, and you see those who aren't.
What really struck me about this book is that there's a challenge to what myself as a white mom and probably a lot of white moms define as the default of motherhood. And it's something that we realized on the podcast pretty quickly in doing the podcast, that we often have guests because we get pitches from them. And after a year, we kind of said, okay, it's been a year. We're just pulling pitches that come through our, email inbox. And we haven't had a Black mom on the podcast yet. There are so few books being written about Black moms, about the experience of being a Black mom, but also just motherhood books. Like this is how to XYZ as a mom. And that I feel like this book captures, and it's a funny and kind of open-hearted way to experience this idea of challenging what default motherhood looks like to you and the role that may be playing in keeping your world smaller and looking for more opportunities to open that world up a little bit.
Absolutely. That's a great way of putting it. And I think, again, like I say, once you realize that you do have a default setting, right? And that your world could be made smaller because of that. It is being made smaller because of that. I think you also realize that is the world your child sees.
Exactly.
That's the world your child sees, right? I talk about in the book about us talking about race with our kids, and these parents were just like, well, I don't know what's happening. They see the world that you've created for them. They see it. You might say all of these things. You might have a yard sign about in this house, X, Y, and Z, but your kid sees the fact that you don't have any Black friends. Your kid sees the fact that all the extracurricular activities they do, there aren't any kids of color. They see the world you've created for them.
And why I like this book as that seeking book is that I'm uncomfortable as a mom just being around humans. As I said, like if I could live online, I'm great with that. Like I like people, but I don't want to go out and meet new people. But I think that the phase where this is difficult and that we as moms, the Amy types of moms, it's like there's a book that will tell you how to do this correctly. There's a book that will say like, make Black friends in 5 easy steps or whatever it happens to be, like that experience we're kind of seeking from the bookstore. But that what this book gets at is that it's complicated for everybody, and it's complicated in a number of layered ways. And just trying to bring our full selves into the experience of motherhood is scary, but a net positive.
I would absolutely agree. And I think to your point that it's layered for everybody. Everybody's trying to figure out how to, one, be out in the world and make friends, because making friends as an adult is awkward and weird. But beyond that, to make sure that what they're modeling, for me, what they're modeling in their lives are the ideals that they want their kids to have. You know, even in I have many Black mom groups. I'm a mom group evangelist. I just want to put that out there. And I'm in like a zillion different WhatsApps and, group me's and text chains.
All right, come join. You have to promise to join the What Fresh Hell podcast group, moms group, because they roll in there.
Absolutely. Like literally, I am a mom group's evangelist. And I have a group of just Black mom friends. And even within that group, there's such difference, right, of what a family looks like. Just recently, one of my good friends in that group is a Black woman who is married to another Black woman. And she wrote us and was like, hey, can you guys make sure you're talking to the kids about the fact that families look different? Because they were going through something with their daughter where she, even though they had given her all the tools, they've done, all the stuff, she was having trouble articulating it because she is 5 on the playground to other kids, right? That she had 2 moms and they're married. And so she was talking to us about it. And she was like, make sure you talk to your kids. And we're like, yes, bet, let's do it. We're doing this. And of course, the first thing one person asked was like, what books do you think will be helpful about this? Because we're all type A DC moms and we want to know the books. But at the same time, it's about, when my daughter asked the question, like, oh, where is Taya's dad? I'm just like, well, Taya has 2 moms who are married. Like, I don't run away from the question or think just her asking me that is somehow in and of itself homophobic, right? No, we're going to talk about it. We were listening to NPR one day and Imani Perry was talking about not wanting to teach her sons about white supremacy. And I didn't think Sally was paying attention. She said to me, she was like, well, Brian's white and I like him. He's a good person. And I was like, all right, we're doing this. Let's go. 4-year-old. Let's talk about it. Yes, Brian is a good person. It's having those conversations and also pulling those people into your circle so that your kid sees oh yeah, what mom says is what she does. And this is how my life should be. These are the things. These are the values that my mother not only says, but she lives through. And I think, and that's constant for me, in my 42 years, I'm having to think about all of this stuff all the time because I've got these little creepos who are watching every single thing I do. Yes. But, and in the end, obviously, that's the goal, right? Is to raise these kids better than me. So, yeah.
It's the goal and the challenge, because we say all the time on the podcast, because people want the magic box that you open and then you're freed from racism, or you open the magic box and inside it is good eating habits. And that unfortunately, the reality that we always come to on the podcast is your kids are going to come out pretty much just like you. They're going to learn how to be from the way you are. And I wish there was a magic box that you could go to that every answer about how to be a parent is in. But I think that what this book gets at so well is this is a practice of how you move through the world with other people and an exploration from maybe someone else's point of view from your own about what that's like. And that's the kind of stuff that I like trying to put in my own path and put in our listeners' path to say like, hey, this will actually help you be a better person and a better parent by just listening to this person's point of view. And so I could not recommend this book more highly. Helena Andrews-Dyer is the author of The Mamas, What I Learned About Kids, Class, and Race from Moms Not Like Me. We like to ask this question, where can you find the book? I feel like people in 2022 know how to get books, but where can people find you, find more of your writing, and find your book?
Well, I am on Facebook. It's so funny. Someone's like, what's your preferred media platform? And I was like, Facebook. And they're like, what? What are you, 60? Yes, Facebook, Helena Andrews-Dyer.
We have an expression on the podcast, which is Oldilocks alert. And I'm afraid you get an Oldilocks alert for Facebook because it's definitely not where the kids are at.
No, I absolutely do. But I love Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, Helena_Andrews, Twitter, Helena_Andrews. I am a culture reporter for the Washington Post. You can always find my work there. And you can buy the book wherever fine books are sold. I always suggest people go to their local indie bookstore, their local BIPOC-owned indie bookstore, but you can get the book everywhere. And then I also read the audiobook. So and listening to books is also reading. Don't let people tell you it's not. And I read the audiobook.
Awesome. We will link to all of those places and we will have it in our bookshop.org shop that supports indie booksellers. And thank you so much for joining me today. This was an awesome conversation.
Thank you so much, Margaret. Thank you for having me.
Close your eyes. Focus. Listen to work getting done with Monday.com. Relax as AI does the manual work, while your teams are aligned on a single source of truth. Feel the sensation of an AI work platform, so flexible and intuitive, it feels like it was built just for you. Notice you're limitless. Now open your eyes, go to Monday.com, start for free, and finally, breathe.